Hey friend, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new, welcome. I'm Jeff. I'm an artist, illustrator and maker, and I've been working full-time as an artist since November 2016 when I quit my day job as a visual merchandiser working in retail. Nowadays, the work that I do varies quite a lot, from murals and public art, artwork licensing, community projects and workshops, so I'm always working on something new. But when it came to this channel, I really wanted to share more of the behind the scenes of me working in the studio. So a lot of it is me playing and prototyping new ideas, doing creative prompts, and just sharing what I learn along the way. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and now let's get into the video. Hello. So firstly, I just want to do a little bit of admin and say thank you so much to everyone who reacted and commented and liked my last few videos on my cardboard fabrication and curtains. It just got a really nice response, which feels really nice. I definitely got a whole bunch of new subscribers as well, so I just want to say thank you to all of the new people who have just joined, but also thank you to everyone who's been there from like the very first video a few months ago. Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge you all and say welcome. You are all great. My big dream project is something that I like to call Jeff World. If I had to describe what it is, it's like this hybrid theme park meets dance party, meets exhibition, meets installation, festival kind of thing. It's very much a vibe and not necessarily a specific tangible thing. And over the past probably like 5 years, the concept of Jeff World has really changed and evolved as my interests and things that I make change as well. I've explored the idea of Jeff World in a few different ways. First, I started to do drawings of like what could Jeff World be if I was going to build it. What would the entry gates look like? What would be the things in the world? And it really helps me to create a visual language for what I'm sort of seeing in my head, because it's obviously like an aspirational project and a big dream goal project, that these illustrations really helped me to visualize something on a page. I also have got to do a few other projects that when I looked back on it, I realized that they are different iterations of this Jeff World as well. I was able to curate a month-long takeover of a pub where I booked performers and did decorations. I was able to put on an artist talk, and we also did like a drag show as well where I was helping with all the costuming, more like the props I would say. And like that in theory was like an immersive kind of version of a Jeff World and sort of scratched that itch. I also had a friend do like a rendering of one of my illustrations in like a 3D way on her own accord. Like she just like sent me an email and said, hey Jeff, I did this and I think we could turn this into a project. And that gave me this idea that maybe Jeff World could become a digital VR space that you move through. And so all these different iterations and interpretations of Jeff World got me thinking, what are some other ways that I could explore it, which brought me to this point of making this video and doing this project. So now that I have become much more comfortable drawing figures and doing portraits, I wanted to start to think about how I could incorporate people into my Jeff World concept. So I want to create this version of Jeff World where it's a digital file, and I'm going to be adding in all different portraits and start to populate the Jeff World artwork over time until it's full. So the concept is like people are visiting Jeff World, and this is what it's like when they've entered the world. And the closest reference point that I can probably connect it to is potentially something like a Where's Wally, where it's just full of figures and there's things happening all over. But the most important thing that this project I think could do for me is to really solidify this idea that when I'm doing a portrait, I'm Jeffifying someone. They're entering into my world. The only things I can kind of bring it back to is when people are, you know, doing a Sims version of themselves, or they get like Simpsonified and get a portrait done of them as if they're in the Simpsons world. I really like that idea of the person being like dropped into a different universe and they instantly look different or in that style. And I think this artwork of Jeff World is really going to help me to tell that story of my portrait work and create a really clear visual language for them. And for the person getting the portrait done, I think it makes it really clear what to expect, and maybe even like gamifies the whole process. Like, what am I going to look like? This is going to be really fun, and takes the preciousness away from it. So that's the aim for my project. And I always will do this step because it really gives me context of why I want to do it, what I'm trying to get out of it. And as I've said many times before, it's what gives me the motivation to persist with it, because this is obviously a self-driven project again, and I'm really excited to see what it looks like. And so I'm just going to go on to the next step, which is creating the master file. Alright, so I love to have a really clear system and process when I'm working. And so for this project, I wanted to set up a folder on my external hard drive that create a really clear process for me to continually add more portraits and artworks to the project. So I'm going to show you what that looks like for me. I created a folder, Jeff World 1, because I think this is just going to be the first of many Jeff Worlds that I create. Inside that, I've got 4 folders. So the first one is all the figures. So all the artworks I'm going to create. These are ones that I've done over the past few years of famous celebrities, people I know, just different ones I'm going to start off with. And just saving them all as a PNG. So for people who don't know what that is, it means the artwork just has no background. So it's like a transparent background. Folder number 2 is going to be all the photos that people send me or I take. So that way I'm just like collecting them all. And then that way it can be really good for showing sort of like the person and the artwork. And then third folder is the world's assets. So I sat down on my iPad and drew out a gate, some flowers that could be used almost like a fence and just like world building, some grass elements. I made a little heart mascot for the space. I kind of like the idea of adding in some imaginary Jeff World people as well, as if like they're the mascots walking around the park. And then I've just got the files for those saved as well in this part. So if I ever want to make more world building elements, I'm going to add all those assets to this folder. And then operations is going to be for anything based around like the forms that I create to get artwork submissions, any documents that I need to create for it. Maybe it's like print files, that kind of stuff. And then I've got my actual workable artwork. So I'm going to put this all together in Illustrator. And so now is the fun part of actually starting to create the artwork. So let's go do that. So when it comes to creating the final artwork file, I wanted to make sure that I'm in Illustrator. I wanted to make sure that it's a CMYK. That way, if I want to print it, it's going to be as true to color as possible. I've gone and created all CMYK versions of the world building assets as well. I was originally going to make this a big panorama format, but I've decided to make it A3 because one, it just like makes it more achievable to at least do the first one, and I can also print it out on my new printer that I bought. The print's in A3. So I think for like the first one, get the system down pat, have it as a really clear example. A3 is going to be more than enough to fill. Alright, so I'm now just going to go in, start to build the world, and I'll probably just touch base with you at the end of this. I've added everyone in and I really do love where it's going. So I am putting people in front of the gate, so it kind of creates more of a story of like entering the world and gives the front gate grounding, that like it's a plane of ground rather than just like flat in some way. And I've got, you know, people waiting out the front with the mascot, these two groups saying hello and waving at each other, a few people sitting around and talking, and I really don't mind the contrast of the different illustrative styles. I thought it could look a little bit odd because some are so graphic and some are so soft, but they all sit within my world, so yeah, it has worked nicely. I like the design problem of having to try and make people engage with each other and like, what's the story I'm trying to create? Maybe as it fills up, it won't really matter as much. So that is the starting of Jeff World version 1. The next part I have to think about is obviously how I'm going to get more people to submit their portraits, or for me to actually reach out to people and see if I can draw them, and what is the logistics of that kind of the operation side of the project. So I'm going to go through now how I'm going to approach that. This next stage is really important because I need to work out the most efficient way for people to be able to submit their portraits with like as limited noise as possible. And by noise, I mean I want to make it just like 1-2 steps max. One thing I've learned in the past is that if I have too many steps and too many barriers for entry, it can mean that people just don't want to engage or take the effort to do it. So I decided I was going to make it a form, but be a really simple form. I just started Googling random free forms and I came across a website called Jotform, and I started to build a whole form out on that website. And then I just decided to quickly double check if Squarespace does forms or not forms, I mean submitting. I need the option to be able to attach a photo to the form. And so yeah, I went onto Squarespace and I use forms on my website already. So I just wanted to double check, and turns out they do. So I scrapped Jotform website and just decided to build this submission form on Squarespace just as another web page, which is actually the best way for it to happen for me because I'm always wanting to make sure that everything is directing back to my website. It's like the holy grail, it's the home base, and everything else comes off that. And like that includes like social media. It was a really good lesson that I learned from one of my friend's kits to like focus on that first. So let's bring up the web page now that I have pulled together, and I'll just take you through the whole process. This could be something that you could use, this format, for a project for yourself. So at the time of recording this, obviously this isn't live and you can't access it, but by the time this YouTube video comes out, it will be live and you will be able to click on it. So I'll put the link in the show notes so you can go over and have a look. So to start, I want to put the artwork at the very top of the page, and I'll update as I add more people to the artwork. I'll just keep on updating this little line down the bottom here so people know where it's at. This next point is, you know, how it all works. So just like really simple process, my aim for the project, just a little bit of a blurb about it. And then over here in the black is where I will put a little video that essentially says very similar to what the text says, but in video format, just because sometimes that's a little bit more engaging for people to watch. I'm probably more likely to click the video and watch over reading it all. So it's just another way of making it a little bit more easier to access and like entry level into the project. This cardboard clothing image is going to be replaced by whatever the thumbnail for this YouTube video is. So by the time you're watching this, it'll be a different thing. This will click through to the actual video. So again, it connects this web page, this project, to my YouTube channel. Then below it is a submission form, really simple, name, email address, and to attach your photos. And then I wanted to put in a few examples of what a photo should look like when they submit it, because I have done projects before where I've asked for photos or reference images, and if you're not 100% clear with your directions and like what you're after, it can be really easy for people to not give you what you need. And I think I've mentioned a full body photo is in 3 different points in this web page, and by showing these 3 examples, people should be able to, fingers crossed, understand that I want a full body photo that's clear enough for me to see the detail. And then just a little disclaimer that I don't know when I'm going to get your artwork put into it, because this is just a self-driven project. So I think that little disclaimer is important to do. So yeah, so that's it for the web page. Pretty straightforward. Now I just have to go through and work out how I'm going to launch it, the social media kind of things that I'm going to use to promote it. When it comes to launching a project like this, I have a few questions that I like to ask myself. The first thing is, how will people find it? So I've decided that I'm obviously going to have a web page on my website that is like a URL link that people can click on. That link can also be added into my Instagram bio link, which I'm going to create a little tab for that, which is another whole thing that I do, is that I, instead of using an outside service to create my sort of link tree kind of tabs, I have a hidden page on my website that hosts all of my links. Because again, it then means whenever anyone clicks on that link in my bio, in my Instagram, it means that I get the clicks for my website rather than giving it to a Linktree account. So the second question I always ask is, what do I want to put in that promotional material, and how fleshed out do I want to make it? So this is the table that I'm going to be using to create all the content that I want for this project. It's pretty straightforward, and you could obviously make your own version of this for your own work if you want to try and make more of a plan when doing your social media. This one isn't filled out because I didn't want to sort of go into too much detail with it. But essentially, I just like to think of a project as pre-production, production, and post-production, and all the different things that I can document to help tell the story of the work from beginning to end. And then what I like to do is, once I sort of come up with all these different points in the first column that can be telling the story of the project, I'll then go into the other 6 columns and work out if that part of the story is relevant to which part of the, like which service that I'm using it for, or which of, whether it's my website. For instance, for behind the scenes, maybe the footage that I took of me drawing the initial design assets for the final document, that might be a time lapse that I use on YouTube, and I might put a little snippet of it on my Instagram, but not in my blog and not on my LinkedIn. This just really helps me to reuse content where I think is most beneficial. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Once I have all of my content sorted and I have a plan of capturing it all, I'll then put it into my social media calendar and actually plan it out as to like when it's all going to launch. And then it'll be ready to launch, which will be great because I'm really excited to get this out there. I really hope this last section made sense. You always wonder if what things are in your head make sense when you have to explain it to other people. And so that brings us to the end of this video. The project is now live on my website. So by the time I'm uploading this video, the project will probably have been on my website for probably about 2 or 3 weeks. So if you want to have your portrait put in the artwork, you can now go and do it. And yeah, I guess I just hope that people actually do submit their portraits and that this does work. You just never know with projects like this. Anyways, well, with that, feel free to leave a comment in the section below. If you like this video or any of my others, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and you can also find me on Instagram as well. I'm really loving all the chats that I've been having with people, and yeah, all these like fresh faces that are coming through, which is great. But yeah, until the next time, I will see you soon. Bye.